Legend Month continues. I'm so excited to have my longtime friend on here. BJ PENN, where are you, legend? There you are.
How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm so happy to see your face. I want to reminisce with you because we have a lot of history, buddy. We go back. We go way back. BJ.
I was talking to somebody last night about it, about how well we know each other.
BJ,
so
we came up under two Gracie brothers. We debuted. Yep. We debuted our first fights in the UFC on the same card.
Yeah.
We fought each other. I cornered versus you twice.
Jiu-jitsu, the most hyped up jiu-jitsu guys, right? At our time.
Yeah, BJ. Right? I want to touch base on each thing, but that last three things I said. I fought you, and I cornered versus you 2 times, and I'm sorry to say that I am 0-3 against you, BJ PENN. BJ 0-3. Come on, let's just be friends.
It's so scary. It's so scary in there in the Octagon. You can't. I mean, every just not dying is just such a blessing.
It can be. Hey, it feels like the Thunderdome in there. It really does. Right? BJ, coming up, listen, the 90s. I was on the Renzo Gracie on the East Coast in Manhattan, and you were on the West Coast with his younger brother, Half Gracie, coming up. And we were the two American prodigies, so to speak.
Hey, we were the hopefuls. Huh? Yes. We were the hopefuls. Hopefully these guys can do something.
Yes. And
how did you? Good. But of course, in jiu-jitsu, you get it all from the fighting because we wanted to fight and be tough guys. But how did you start noticing about the jiu-jitsu tournaments? Like Dave Camarillo, Cameron Earl, those guys kind of taught me about the jiu-jitsu tournaments. But how did you kind of fall? How'd that open up?
It wasn't really that popular on the East Coast, the tournaments. They started more in California. So,
right?
When Renzo came over, I was already with his American business partner. You ever hear of Craig Kukuk?
I did hear.
Yes, he's the first American to get the black belt.
Videos.
Yes. So I became a student of him, and then Renzo came over a couple of years later and had an in-school tournament, and then Renzo started pushing me to do the tournaments because all I was interested was the fighting, and then then Renzo made me really say, look, that will get you better towards the fighting by competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Competing in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you got way more nerves than the UFC. You're you don't want to go in there and get tapped out. What was going on? There is no lucky shots in there, right? I mean, somebody can do a flying triangle, but if they passed your guard, if they mounted you, if they got around your neck, that was your fault.
Yeah, what do they say? Right? There's such a thing as a lucky punch, but there's not really a lucky submission. You know what I mean?
Right?
And let me add, for the people that don't know, BJ PENN is the first American to win the black belt world championships in Brazil, the Mundials, in 2000, correct?
Yes, in 2000.
Yeah.
I look at even with the UFC belts and the fights and stuff. I'm looking at the medal right now. Just right now when you said that, right over there. As time goes on, it becomes more important and more important. And I remember when I got to that final, something told me, because I was just doing it for fun. We were just doing it we're going to be the toughest guy in our town or whatever. Right? But I remember when I got to the final, I was eating lunch, and you know what? That's a moment my brain just clicked in my head to what I was like. I just told myself, I go, you know what? You might never get in this position again. No matter what, if your leg breaks, your arm breaks, you gotta win this. You'll never get here again. And then I think that's the kind of the moment I clicked to in life, right before that.
And back in for myself, I know I never did really much in high school or middle school. I did a season of wrestling, and then I didn't really get along with the coaches and stuff, BJ, So when I started doing jiu-jitsu, the first thing I ever won that was ever really won was the purple belt Pan Ams in Miami in 1999. I remember it was 1999 because it was Welcome to Miami. That song was on. Remember that fucking thing? Remember the Will Smith song? So I won, and I remember being like, I had to beat 4 Brazilians, and then Renzo gave me my brown belt that day. And I remember, the medal, I just remember being on like the balcony afterwards, just being like, I just feel like I like worth something. Like, it meant so much to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, shit, BJ.
Hey man, it's like the fighting, you can kind of make your mind check out kind of a little bit because you're gonna go fight but this one you're totally aware. You're completely aware of what's happening. Every move, everything.
When you won that Mundials, it was a huge thing, BJ, because it was in Brazil. It was in Brazil, and you had your team there, the Nova Union. I always mess up. After all these years, I always mess up the name. Could you say the name for me, Nova Union?
Yep, Nova Union.
That's better.
It's like New Union or Nova Union.
Yes,
or something.
With the great Andre Pedadeiras.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Old school.
And Shaolin was there. Shaolin, Robinho, Leo Santos, and that one guy Feijão was really good too. Just training with those guys, but those guys, you know what? Shaolin was the best guy. He was good, man.
These are like some unsung heroes. When you were over there in Brazil, that's something else we have in common, because when I was in Brazil over in 1996 or 7, whatever it was, I was like the only American on the mat, man. And sometimes they always, right? So that feeling too. How did they treat you over there? Over at Gracie Baja, Renzo held a lot of respect, so they never were overly rude, but some of them weren't too nice. Gringo, I heard, is not a nice thing. Hey, Gringo, you're still training. And I remember the guys now who were extra nice to me and the guys that were a little douchey. But how were they treating you over there?
People they're pretty nice, but you're right. It's a whole different. It's a lot more physical down there in Brazil, right? It's a lot more physical. You don't want to say it's less mental, but you really see it, right? You really kind of see it, and it's a lot different than where we come from. And
yeah,
I never really went anywhere. I just came to California a couple of times, and next thing I know, we were going to Brazil, and I look out the window, I'm like, they got big boats over here.
Yeah, shit.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, Brazil. Something in the water over there.
That's the first time I ran into you.
Was
right?
it?
Did we run into each other, or did?
I'm gonna say the first time we met was at UFC 31. Because we knew about
each other. True meeting. You're right.
We knew about each other. There's always been, because back then there wasn't social media, but there's rumblings like, these Penn brothers and this kid BJ, this is the next, this house protege, this guy's the next big thing. And then we all heard about you, and I was always like, when is he coming to visit? You always want to see, like, I want to, I wonder how this guy is. Back when we were younger, I know and whenever somebody was visiting, or you always wanted to like test yourself, 100%,
right? That was the time. That's the truth.
And that's why
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you.
No, I was just gonna say that's why we walked up. You gotta walk away at some point, because it's like, hey, so you're the new asshole that's supposed to be the toughest in the world. Nice to meet you. Okay, I'll wrap my I'll go get ready. It's a war.
I know, BJ. It's in us, and it's so hard to get that out. It doesn't really actually ever really leave us, that fight. We just gotta direct it.
I had such a hard time retiring and on everything that was going on. Because of your identity. But then, when you're in there too, you don't really like it already. Anyway,
the fight camps themselves. The fighting's the fun part, but the fight camps, BJ, when you get a little bit older, that could fucking hit you pretty hard.
Man, the sparring, because you gotta spar. Because I don't train people, but if I did train someone, I would never let the guys. I would never say, "Hey guys, guess what? We're sparring today." I would never do that. I would always take them to the other coach and go, hey, coach, can my boy get a couple rounds with your boy tomorrow? When he says, yeah, I'll look at my guy and say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow, kick his fucking ass and fucking leave. That's how you, right? That's how you build a fucking stone cold killer.
I'll tell you, BJ, we're old school guys. There's a lot of, you know, I know this sport has grown, but at the end of the day, it's a fucking fight. It's a fight. When people start coming to me with this and that, they're running on a treadmill with a snorkel, whatever the fuck it is. I'm telling them, like, me and Longo are getting our guy ready, or me and Colombo, or, you know, we're getting our guy ready, and you're getting your guy ready, and we're going to meet you at the flagpole, and we're going to have a fucking fist fight. That's it.
Right?
Let's get ready to fight, man. So all these new training methods and this and that, I don't just shun things, but I'm an open-minded guy. But let's all keep it in perspective. We're getting ready for a fight. So I'm with you with that, BJ.
Hey. Right? No, it's just a fight. And the word fist fight, there's nothing more important going on in the whole fucking world when you're in a fist fight.
Oh,
there's
dude.
Nothing anywhere could be more important.
And there's nothing more,
right?
There's nothing more glorious when you win in there. There's nothing.
It's unbelievable.
It's addictive. You're out there in the cosmos, man, for that nothing. If the world ended tomorrow, tonight is yours. Tonight is ours.
It goes maybe about 4 or 5 days, and you don't even need to drink alcohol. You just feel there.
It's crazy, man. I mean, you get adrenaline junkies like Cowboy Cerrone doing everything but jumping out of a plane with a squirrel suit, and that guy needs that rush, but he still says nothing compares to fighting in that octagon. Nothing. BJ, the first time in there, me and you were at, I believe it might be the medicals or something, and we were talking. That's when the first time I met you, you know, and you were fighting Joe Gilbert.
Gilbert.
I grappled his brother Dan Gilbert to get to Abu Dhabi.
Oh, yeah?
And I still smell like him, dude. That motherfucker. That BJ. I don't know how his brother smelled in there, but you ever have a guy I smelled like this dude's armpits. I should have left that choke on for a little bit. But anyway, BJ, you were fighting his brother, Joey, and it was your debut, and it was my debut versus Mr. International Shoney Carter. Mr. International Shoney.
Had a tough debut. Your guy was like they gave you like he's like an 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10 opponent. And Joey was, you know, he was tough. He had his thing, but you know, kind of you got off on him, and you can kind of get a chance. We could choke him, right? Yeah. You had a tough opponent for your first fight. This guy had like 50 fights already. Yeah,
Shoney had
your first fight.
It's funny because Shoney's goofy. Like he acts goofy. He dresses goofy. He wears a Speedo. He fucking greases. I'm telling that to the camera, BJ. Anyway. So, and he has a lot of experience. When I fought him, I had 8 fights, and I would just take guys down and smoke them. I never got out of the first round. So there's a lot to do with that. But I lost mine. And I had a fun fight.
That's everything.
Yeah.
You get famous from those quick wins, but it kills you when it's time to fight, and you finally get in a real fight. Yeah. And the guy gets past the first round. I didn't know. I really did a lot of learning on the job, especially with my stand-up. You, my friend, people thought they saw us both on there, and I was what they expected as far as jiu-jitsu wise. I was throwing a lot of shit at them with the umaplatas and shit, leg lock attacks. But you boxing him up from the get-go because they expected you to go in there, shoot him, take him down. Joey Gilbert had a wrestling background. No, you were one of the first jiu-jitsu guys to be like, all right, I'm going to work my jiu-jitsu, but first I'm going to put these hands on you. I'm going to put these Hawaiian soup bones on you. BJ, you boxed him up, you took him down, and you strangled him. Am I missing anything with that? You know what? In the boxing, like, I almost felt like the more I learned, the kind of worse I got, because I tried to think or something like, if you watch all of us kind of in the beginning when we're raw, like a Tito, or there's something there that you can kind of harness and get from. But of course, you got to be able to relax too and stay in there. I mean, this isn't right. It's a marathon, and when you step in there, it doesn't matter if you're going 3 rounds or 5 rounds. It's who can run the farthest, the fastest, as far as whoever's in the lead at the end. Did you ever do you remember when you would kill the guy in the first round, second round the guy'd win it by this much, your corner would walk in and say, "The fight's tied." You gotta
oh my God! No, come on, I don't really. I know, like, come on, man. The first round ended when we mounted. I know, dude. It's heartbreaking. It is. It's especially when you almost have that sub or something, and you're like, oh, we're starting from the beginning now. No, it's rough. BJ, so you burst on the scene. Then they threw Dean Thomas at you. Now, Dean Thomas, he was his debut. He had experience also, and he was strong. He was big. He was long. He just got done doing a rolling inside heel hook on Jens Pulver in Shudo.
That's right. So, he was the lineal champ. Yeah.
It was going into that. People were thinking this is going to be a fucking scrap. Shit, man, one knee up the fucking pipe later. So Dean BJ gets his head, lifts up his knee. BJ could scratch his behind his ear with his toes. BJ's very flexible. So BJ knees him, knocks him out, blows a kiss to the fucking cameras. Unbelievable. The next fight, I believe, is Cal Uno.
Yeah.
If you call it a fight, dude, he ran across the cage and he steamrolled them. And there's still a picture in my mind of Cal Uno sleeping up against the cage. So BJ, shit, man. And then after that, they do the lightweight tournament.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. Yes?
Hey, 4 pretty good guys, all of us 4. We were pretty good guys, yeah?
Listen, it was great. It was a great lineup. It was myself and you and Cal Uno and Dean Thomas. The first lightweight tournament.
For the title.
And then, yes, the winner gets the fight for the title, right? Yeah. So I remember talking to Joe Silva for it. And I remember wanting, we always had like pleasant exchanges and everything. And back then, it was almost carrying the jiu-jitsu flag. It was slowly turning against that. But, I remember being like, look, I'm looking at the lineup. And I'm going, hey, man, I'd love to meet BJ in the semifinals, to be honest with you. I think that would be a big lead up. I rolled with Uno one time. And I know it's different, but I did roll with him one time in Japan. So, when you roll with somebody and you feel like you could do well with them, you know what I mean? I don't want to say what So I had a good session with him in Japan one time. So I'm like, all right, I know I can get my hands on him. And I go,
him he's hard to get in that fucking choke, that guy.
Dude, I don't want to.
You getting him?
Listen, I don't want to talk about BJ. I love it. I don't want to talk about but I'm gonna. It's a long time ago. BJ, I got him in. But listen.
Like 2 or 3 people on earth have done that.
But I have to add, though, it wasn't with MMA gloves. It's harder with MMA gloves.
Man, he's so good at that.
That's why, man. When I rolled with him, I didn't have the gloves on, so I got him a couple of times with that. But it was ages ago, and he's a stud. But even if I couldn't get the choke, I felt I could dominate. Like you were all over him when you fought him. You were all over him.
He's down.
No,
wasn't it so surprising how he would beat Dean, and Dean was an animal. Right before I got Dean with the knee, because I never fought. Like I fought all kinds of people just in Hawaii. Like I never really fought like a black guy before. He was so strong, Dean. Man, he was a beast.
He was. Yeah, that's so honest.
I was like, at one moment, I'm like, wow, this guy's so strong. I couldn't push him off the fence. It was my first time in my life, so I barely got off the fence, like 1 or 2 feet off it, and then we kind of break up, and I'm like, wow, this guy's strong. This could be it. This could be the end. And then he springs, and I just go, boom, and then he falls down. So one moment, I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to get my ass kicked tonight. Finally, I'm going to get my ass kicked. And then the next minute, anybody who steps in this ring, that's what's going to happen to you. So that's fighting, right? Fighting.
When I saw Dean, I seen Dean accept the bottom position a lot. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, dude, jump the guard on me. I love it. I mean, when I fought him, it was a hard time to get a hold of him. But then, all right, here we are. So then I told, Joe Silva's like, nah, man, you got BJ in the first round. And I'm like, all right, man. And it's the first time I had to fight somebody up until that point. I never fought anybody that I ever even spoke to. Like, so I felt like almost conflicted by. Now, listen, BJ, I got to bring up a story that you're gonna die about this, because I remember fight week. It was cool because it was in Mohegan Sun, which is a road trip for me and my boys. So it was kind of like
seen anything like it.
It was so I had a lot of the East Coast there guys for me. So you probably felt like enemy territory. I drove down there and I remember like shit, man, like. You know, I felt like I had trained so hard because I knew what I was up against with you, BJ, the monster movie so far in the UFC. I was like, oh, geez. So I was training my ass off. And I remember the first time I ran into you and I didn't know how it was going to be. So I came up to you and I don't even remember this. You were very cold. You were very cold to me almost. And I'm like, oh, BJ, you remember. You Listen, let me say first, because I'm gonna fess up to something. This is gonna be so fun. So BJ, so I'm like, oh, that's how it's gonna be. And we were young, we were kids. So up until that point, it was dirty looks. When you're with your crew, I'm with mine. Right. We're sitting out, we walk into the cafeteria, whatever it was, we're sitting out, we're looking at each other. It feels like it could pop off at any time. Right, BJ?
That's true. And it's like, remember when because there were so few people that you drink with everybody, but if you're fighting them just that week, you guys, that's your guy you don't talk to, right? But that's true.
It's true, but BJ, there's a reasoning behind it. So this is so funny. We were getting our eyes checked, and we get out, and we were kind of still like posturing, and you said something like, so I guess we're not getting a drink after or something like that. I go, hey man, you're being like this to me. And then you said something to me. Hey, listen, BJ. And then you go to me. You go, and this is parts of you're not. I hope you remember this. You go, yeah. You know, you told Dana you're gonna put me in a dress or something like that. And I'm like, and I go, do you remember this?
Hula boy. Dana kept saying hula boy.
Listen. So you said that to me, and you must have worded it differently because back then I didn't really hang with Dana at all. So I go, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you're like, all right, and this and that. And then I remember later on, and then we like shook and we're like, all right, after we'll have a drink. And then afterwards, I'm like, motherfucker. I go, I remember Dana came out like 2 months prior, and there was a Long Island-based press. There was like a marketing strategy they had to try to have us do 8x10s, and they were trying to market us. So we had like a marketing meeting, and then I was leaving that thing, and I was with Dana. And Dana, he goes, where you going? I go, I got to go run some hills, man. I go, and he's like, hey man, you know, BJ's tough. Now look, I'm in fight mode. You know what I mean? He's telling me, hey man. So I'm like, listen, man, and I said this, I swear to God, but I didn't put it together. When you said it to me, I didn't, because I go, listen, man, I'm going to send them back to Hawaii in a hula skirt. BJ, I'm sorry. I'm fessing up now 20 years later.
You know what?
I'm sorry, BJ. I love you, man. I didn't, when you put it on.
That's not personal. Hey, that's part of the game. I mean, Leo Santos, I remember he goes one time like, oh, why are you talking like that about the guy? He didn't disrespect you. And I look at him and I go, when he put his name on the contract is when he disrespected me. Because that's how it feels. That's what it is.
BJ, right? it is, man. You have to have that mindset. So anyway, then that's why I'm like, oh, that makes sense why the guy's being, I know we're gonna, so I didn't, because I never, so that's how that worked out. And then we had our fight. Now, listen, I'm going down. Now I knew, listen, I was just ready. I just felt like, I felt very dangerous, but I still was like, I'm about to go downstairs, and I had Gil Castillo was there. You know Gil Castillo? He's a Cesar Gracie guy, or Cesar Gracie black belt.
Gil Castillo. Did he fight Matt Hughes that night or something?
Yeah, he might have. He fought Matt Hughes. He lost some fights, but he fought for the welterweight strap back in the day versus Dave Manette.
He did. He was in it, Gil. You got to say he was
Gil's
there.
A great guy. He was friends with Cesar. Now, Cesar, at that time, I don't know that you might have been like out with Alf or out of the family. There was some drama going on. So I got so I knew. I talked to Cesar before. I like Cesar, but there's some guys. Right. There's some guys you don't want to talk to. When you're getting ready for a fight, you don't want to hear anybody else. You don't want to hear any negativity. So BJ, I'm going. Right. I leave the room, and Cesar goes. So Gil goes, hey, Cesar wants to talk to you real quick. I'm like, oh fuck. I get on the phone. This is what I get. Hey, man, I'm just letting you know, BJ's Muay Thai, I heard, it's been looking really, really dangerous. He's been working with, whatever. He's just looking sick standing up. And just, hey. And he's been going with Division I wrestlers and having a hard time getting them down. Hey, Caesar, maybe I shouldn't show up then. BJ, the worst thing you want to hear. Okay, so his stand-up's looking fucking phenomenal. And he's very, very difficult to get down. What, BJ, come on, man. I'm like, thanks, Caesar. So, dude, so then the fight starts. There might be right now, I couldn't run if you had a gun to my head with my knees. I can still roll, but I can't run. Me and you both we sprinted back. We sprinted down that. We used to be a ramp.
Right.
I sprint down. I sprint down with my tank top and my hat on backwards. It was BJ. We were getting ready for a street fight.
Right.
It was, dude. It was a hard fight. I remember when it started off, and I remember the first time I lifted up your leg, you gave me a short uppercut to my eye. I still see floaties. You know what a floaty is when you see the dots?
Oh, man.
BJ.
I'm sorry.
So no apologies. So you hit me with that. So I brought my head to the outside, and sure enough, the rumors were true. You don't go down so easy. Dude, I'm hugging you. I'm chasing you. I'm on your leg. I'm chasing you around. I'm like trying to put you to the floor. You like a spring. And the first round was hard, BJ.
Yeah, well, I remember walking up, man, because I think about it, like now that we're sitting here, like the same day, I could have been the first guy like the GSP because you were ready that night. You were ready, man. Like I had to keep my eyes open on everything. You were strong, fast. And I knew that you had that in you. I knew you were the kind of guy that could beat the best guy at any day easily like that. And you're right there. BJ. And when I heard you coming out, I was like, oh, I could have been the first GSP right there.
Oh, shit.
And that was, yep.
Oh.
I always laugh because the last time I was with John Jack Machado and I go, isn't it crazy how we're the two best rappers in the UFC get in the ring every single time?
Yeah.
Right? It's funny, yeah.
I mean, we got to take down a piece, and you got me the double hunt hooks. I got the butterfly guard, and I got back up. I got you one time against the cage, and you sprung back up, and we kind of nullified it. We nullified, when you're really good in jiu-jitsu, it's hard to get positioned. So we were on, and that's when we were on point. It's hard to keep either one of us down. And, it went to the judges, the second round was close. The third round was, and then when I saw a little bit, you were breathing a little after. I'm like, oh my God, I could have pushed hard afterwards. I'm like, maybe I should have pushed harder. But listen, after sharing the cage with you, it's not a fight that I ever felt like I had to get back. I felt if it had to end with me with a loss, and it ended almost in a standstill with us looking at circling each other, and so there's nothing like I gotta get that one back. Or I just think we had a fun fight, BJ. We did, and you were the victor.
It would have been the same again.
I think at the end, 30 minutes we'd be circling each other like fucking two J.R. Sullivans. Ah, shit, BJ. But listen, man. You went on to greatness, lightweight champion, then went on to, Matt Hughes. When you beat Matt Hughes, that was the Davey and Goliath story. Matt Hughes was unstoppable at that point. Pre-USADA. I'm sorry. But go ahead.
When I first fought, like we said, the first round fights, it made you popular, but it didn't get you what you needed. Then I got because first I was just gonna fight one fight in the UFC, and then Dana kind of talked me into the second Atlantic City one, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to get the belt in and head out. But losing that one fight to Jens, that kind of just kept me around for 20 more years, which is a good thing.
A great thing.
Get me into it, and then I remember we fought that night, and then I was fighting Uno for the belt, and I remember that's the fight I kind of when I beat him first round like I always do, and then Uno, he's always that guy to keep coming, right? And then Uno came back too, And then my friend jumped on the stage. That he wasn't even quartering. He just jumped on the stage and he said, "What the fuck? You gotta do something else. Step up." But that was the first night that I can kind of like was going and then came back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I kind of. But Uno, when he was on top, I give him that. When he was on top of me and holding me, and he was punching me down. He punches pretty hard. That was the only time I felt him ring me ever.
Yeah.
It was when he was on top. But after that night, then that's when I kind of fought Gomi, and then because I kind of figured to where I was, you know. So it was like that one with Uno that finally I got what I needed in a fight kind of thing, you know, like where you get in there and you're right, you start losing, and then you can kind of come back, and then from there Gomi, and then once I knew after the Gomi fight, once I knew that I was fighting Matt, I just knew already that. Because it's not right. Hey, it's not here. It's here.
It's so mental, BJ. Thing. And speaking of mental, I want to get to when I cornered versus you with my roommate Rodrigo Gracie. It was huge, and I never. It was wild. Rodrigo was coming over from Pride, and I went over there to corner him. And I'll tell you right now, I've never been in a more hostile environment. I love Hawaiians. Let me put that on record. And they love me. But anyway, BJ, that night was fucking crazy. It was crazy. It was, I don't know where it was in Hawaii. I get confused. Honolulu, right? Yeah. You fought Rodrigo, and you had a phenomenal night that night, my friend. Rough night for me in the office in the corner, but dude, you took out Rodrigo, and again, hard takedown defense on point, hands on point, and you beat a Gracie. Yeah, that was one of the. We had a lot of ticket sales for that fight, but you know, I always wonder, like when I see games and fights or whatever, I always think to myself, I just use fights as my example, though. I just go, most fights are lost, not won. Yeah. When they right, it's not that somebody just went. And you know what? When we were doing this, it was like the stare down right before we went out to the cage, and then that's where I felt like, because even in those are little things. Everything is something, just a little one more thing, and it's a war. Act like you've been in one before. Right. Hey, that second time outside in the Aloha Arena, was it? Yeah. When you fought Master Head. When you fought, I mean, listen, this was a special moment for me, only because when you fought Master Renzo Gracie, my instructor, you know, when I was in that corner, it was Rickson Gracie, the legend, Ralph Gracie, the late, great Ryan Gracie, and me, little Italian guy. So I just to be in the corner with, you know, some of my with greatness, yes, and a greatness and a huge thing, right? And Renzo, no matter how old he is, always came to fight. I was busy doing everything, and then my dad was like, "Oh, Renzo said he's really training his boxing for you. Renzo's so smart, that guy." So when we're doing everything, I'm really not even paying attention. I trained and everything. Then when I get there, then at the like a press conference and a stare down. Once I looked over at Renzo, that motherfucker's not afraid of nobody. You got it a second. BJ. He's looking instantly right at me. I was like, holy shit. Because Rodrigo, it kind of wore on towards the end, like, oh, this guy just beat Matt and this and that. Renzo doesn't give a fuck about any of that shit. And he's an animal. And listen, and then towards the end of it, so you beat Renzo, but at the end of the fight, you just mounted him, and then the bell rings. So I'm walking, right? So I'm happy it ended then, you know, because, you know, you don't want to see your master mounted. Right, but right. So when it ended, we're walking. He's all of our master. He's all of our master, you know? Everybody loves fucking Renzo Gracie. BJ, really so we're going back. This is just funny because, you know, with jiu-jitsu guys, it's always technical and this and that. He goes, so I'm going backstage with him, you know, and I go up, and he's like, he mounted me at the end. He goes, but I was going to give him one punch from bottom. I go, what the fuck is that? You know, usually they're like, I was going to escape. He goes, I was going to give him one punch from bottom. But anyway, BJ, Fuck, man. I love all war stories, man.
He's an animal, that guy.
Yeah, dude.
He's funny.
You know, and I'm so privileged to come up underneath him.
It's like we were saying, like how, you know, like you said it eloquently and perfectly, how Hoist Gracie and all of them, they were coming in from that professional kind of like not McDojo angle, but just a nice quality, you know. And then Helf and Henzo, it was just gangs. And the UFC was gangs, you gotta realize. It was jiu-jitsu gang. No matter what, we'd all team up together if we had to. But then, you know, it was all
the Henzo and Half, that side of the family, those brothers, and Hyan especially, Madman. Henzo's big thing was, we got enough friends. We could use some enemies. Yeah, I got 1 million of it. BJ, my friend. Dude, hey man, only because I got Kat Zingano showing up at my studio soon. I got you know the great Kat Zingano? She's doing a jiu-jitsu takedown seminar at my school tonight. It's gonna be great. I want to do a part 2 with you, bro. Can we do a part 2 in the upcoming months, dude? Dude, it went by way too fast. We could talk for fucking hours, man.
We didn't talk about nothing.
I know, man. Fuck. We had the fucking technical difficulty, dude. Trust me, I'm worse than anybody with that shit. I feel your pain trying to get on air with this thing, dude. I'm sitting here like, I'm sorry, BJ. Dude,
man, I could feel you through the phone.
I know. I felt bad because I only get stressed with that. BJ, listen to me. You're dude. I love you, man. I love seeing your face. I want to see you. I want to give you a hug. After all these years, dude, I'm happy we're still friends. 0-3, bro, BJ. I'm never going against you again in anything. Not checkers. I'm 0-3. I'm tapping out. Okay,
man. Hey, and you know what? Hey, remember after you beat GSP, I called you or I messaged you. Hey, you're the one guy that I wanted to see do something great like that. And that's just the greatest thing of all time. That was so awesome, man.
I appreciate that, man. Like, listen, and anytime, and Joe Rogan says it all the times. He says it many times, I should say. Like, when they talk about some of the greatest to ever do it, you in your prime, that head kick with Diego, that night they put the devil on the other side, dude. Nobody's beating you that night. So, hey, everything that you accomplished, you're a legend in the game. And I'll text you later, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, it was a nice break from you away from the politics and stuff.
Yes. But, stay positive, my friend. Stay positive. Yes. All right, brother. I'll talk to you later, man. Thank you, legend.
Love you, man.
Love you, brother.
Let's talk soon.
Take care. Later, BJ. That was the show. That was the show. We had fun today. Hey, listen, we had it done. What a good time. I love BJ. I loved catching up with him. I had a little time fucking crazy thing today. I got Kat Zingano coming down for a seminar. She would have already done it by the time this airs. Roy Nelson coming in. Killer Karrion Kross coming in. Oh, actually, who else we got? Who's the third one? Keep him in suspense. All right. I got to wrap. I'll talk to you soon. I stutter at the end. Stay humble yet dangerous. Take care.